everyone. My name is Suyash Bire. I'm a graduate student at School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences at Stony Brook University. And I'm going to talk about how to spin your own Spacemacs-lite. So I first thought I would call it spin your own Spacemacs, but then I thought it was too arrogant because Spacemacs is really big, and it's a lot of people have put in a lot of effort and put in a lot of hours into configuring Spacemacs. So then maybe I should just call it Spacemacs-lite. Do any of you use Spacemacs here? Just one? Two? Okay, just two people. Evil, okay, yeah, close enough. Do you all know what Spacemacs is? Okay, so everyone knows what Spacemacs is, so that's good. Yeah, so let's start. So first thing is, how did I get started with Spacemacs? So I'm mainly a Vim user, and when I was a master's student back in India in 2012, I did not know any of Vim or Emacs or any of that stuff. But then they gave me an account on a supercomputer, and that had a really bare bones Unix system, and they only had a V and Nano on that system. And what I did was I did not know both of those, so I would just copy all the files that I wanted to edit back to my local system, make changes using gedit or something, and then send them back to the server. And then pretty soon I started losing my sanity doing that. So then I figured out I had to either use Nano or Vim, and then I saw my advisor using Vim, and his cursor would be in this corner, and then the change would happen in that corner, and then I thought that was really impressive. So then I knew I had to learn Vim, and that's how I got started with Vim. But then once you start using Vim, it sort of becomes an addiction. So you start craving those key bindings everywhere else. So has any one of you used Vimperator or Pentadactyl by any chance? Okay, just one. Yeah, so you're not all Vim users, so you probably... Have you heard of them before?
Vimperator, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, they're basically Firefox add-ons that implement HJKL key bindings for Firefox, and then it's not just HJKL; they do a lot of stuff. But since Firefox changed after Firefox 57, there's a new add-on Tridactyl that almost emulates everything that Vimperator and Pentadactyl could do. Then there are V bindings in the terminal, and there are Gmail Vim bindings. So you get really used to HJKL bindings, and you cannot really live without them. Whoops. Let me turn on my Wi-Fi. Yeah, I restarted. I restarted my laptop, right? So then that's when I lost. Can I just restart the window? Does it still keep recording?
Yeah, so just be recording the commands, things that you do. Just that part. So just put this one.
You can edit this part out, right?
I'll talk to our producer.
It's on the internet. I use a Linux system full time. This is like my traveling system. I'm not really used to. Yeah, it's working now. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, you start seeing HJKL bindings everywhere, and then that's an XKCD that I stole. It has some popular references, the Emacs, Vim, editor war, stuff like that, CRISPR, and people would probably want CRISPR with Vim bindings. CRISPR is like a gene editing tool. It's really making some news recently. And it's like one of those technologies that people are wondering about whether we should go ahead with, because it has a lot of moral implications. But then this was the alt text to that comic. So Elon Musk finally blocked me from Tesla's internal repository because I wouldn't stop sending pull requests for my code supporting steering via Vim key bindings. Yeah, so then I then I found out about Emacs, and then Emacs could do just way much more than Vim. That's like, I don't have to convince you guys about that. And there's org mode, so nothing in the Vim ecosystem comes close to what org mode can do. So that's the reason why I wanted to try out Spacemacs. And then I saw talks by Harry Schwartz and then John Kitchen. John Kitchen is an author of orgref. It's an excellent package if you want to do references and citations in org mode. And then I saw Aaron Bieber's talk. So they were all pretty convincing, and I thought maybe I should try out Spacemacs someday. So Spacemacs was a natural choice. So yeah, how does Spacemacs work? The key bindings all start with space. So Spacemacs is modal. So that's where the name comes from. The key bindings start with space. It implements a layer system. So layer is like a collection of, in Spacemacs, layer is like a collection of eList files that implement functions and key bindings and like whatever you would want related to a programming language. So Spacemacs has a layer for Python, a layer for LaTeX, a layer for C. Like if there is a language that is used by a dozen people around the world, Spacemacs probably has a layer for it. It's like it has layers for everything. There are some special layers like auto-completion and the narrowing system, but I'll come to that later. Layer is formed of these 5 files mainly, so layers.el, packages.el, and the names are pretty self-explanatory. So layers.el has information about what the layer is for. Packages.el defines what packages the layer uses. Config.el defines all the variables that the layer would use, and then key bindings has key bindings, and then functions defines all the functions that the layers use. So how does it work? So it maintains modularity by defining these pre-init, pre-init, then init and post-init functions, and it's easier to understand when we take an example. So like auto completion is a special layer, and what makes it special is that you would want auto completion in all the layers. So it's like you would want auto completion in Python as well as in C as well as in like shell or wherever. Auto completion it should be omnipresent if you're used to it. And then there is this constraint that Spacemacs places on packages. So each package should only be owned by one layer. So if you use say company mode, so who here uses company? So you all know company, right? Company is like an auto completion. So it's like auto complete. So if one layer owns company, and if you also want to include it in Python, so you cannot. For example, Python, you cannot the layer that owns company cannot define, cannot make it available, or how should I say it? It cannot define company for all possible languages. There are like thousands of languages, and you cannot really configure company to be present in all of those languages or all of those layers at the same time. You lose modularity, right? So how does Spacemacs achieve modularity? So they use this layer init package. So that would be like auto completion. So that's the name of the layer, and then init company. So all the company initialization goes in this function. And this also tells Spacemacs that company is owned by auto completion layer. And then when Python wants to use any features from company, it would define a company post, Python post init company function. And then this function will only get activated if auto completion layer is defined. So that's how Spacemacs maintains modularity. But that's just technical mumbo jumbo. How does Spacemacs really work? It works that way. There's this changes in version 10. The CPU no longer overheats when you hold down spacebar. And then some long-time user says that this update broke my workflow. My control key is hard to reach, so I hold spacebar instead. I configure Emacs to interpret a rapid temperature rise as control. That's very fine. Look, my setup works for me. Just add an option to re-enable spacebar heating. And then the alt text. Alt text is always funnier in XKCD. They're probably it murders children. But in all seriousness, Spacemacs is a really mature and well thought out and extensively documented configuration system. So if you are a Vim user, there aren't many here, it's just one or two. But if you are a Vim user and you want to try out Emacs, Spacemacs would be a good starting point. And users contribute their own layers to Spacemacs, so there are like layers for every conceivable language out there. And I feel, in my opinion, like that has made Spacemacs really big. It's when I first started out using Spacemacs, I thought it was somewhat opaque. Like if there were small bugs in Spacemacs, I couldn't go in and debug them myself. I just thought the configuration was too big. There were other issues. Last year they had like 300 pull requests pending, and for a repository that big, there was just one primary maintainer, and they had like a few regular contributors, but that wasn't sufficient. Spacemacs had just become too big. But in all fairness, they are addressing those issues. So this year they came up with a pull request policy, and that has allowed other users to pitch in and then help merge the pull requests. So it has gone down to about 150 now. And then they've also made Spaceline. So Spaceline was Spacemacs' power line, so mode line, and they've made it available as a separate package. So yeah, they're like moving towards breaking down their configuration. But yeah, I just thought it was too big, so I wanted something that I could control. And that's when I came across this post from Samuel Barreto. So that's where he published it. He was like, how to build your own Spacemacs. And he introduced all the packages that he used to do it, and it was really informative, and it was quite useful. So my config is mostly based off of this, and I have small improvements on what he's done, but the crux of the matter is that use package serves as the backbone, and then general.el provides key bindings. So does anyone here? I'm pretty sure you all know use package, but does anyone know general.el?
I printed out the README from the repository for
Oh,
the
okay.
trip over. It's pretty impressive. It's actually 6 pages.
Oh yeah. The general.el has excellent documentation. Yeah.
So it's a replacement for John Langley's bind key then, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
You said a lot of people use package?
Yeah. It's
There have been some people that have given talks that use package.
Yo.
Some people with long hair. That's the big
But
one.
everybody's using
Yeah,
it?
I thought-
That's not my experience.
I thought use package was pretty popular. Is it not?
It's pretty popular.
Yeah.
Who's using
Yeah.
it?
There's also some consideration.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Lots of them.
Well, I've been warned away from it because it conceals too much of the Emacs internals. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
I guess for hardcore Emacs users, maybe that's true, but for newbies, it makes sense to use package. Well, yeah, that's like a typical use package block. It's like you would, if say you wanted to use hem, defer T delays the auto loading, or it prevents Helm from being loaded when you start Emacs, so that speeds up your init time, initialization time, and then the init code basically contains all the code that is loaded, that is run before the package is loaded, and then config has all the code that is run after the package is loaded. And there is if condition, which is quite interesting, and then it basically says that if the condition is true, package is loaded. Oops. And then there is this general keyword that's new, that comes with the general.el. So you have to install general.el for this keyword to be active, and it's used to define key bindings. And then this is an example of how general can be used. So it's just use package and then general, and then ensure T ensures that general is installed, and then init is we define general override mode, so that tells it that general's key bindings take precedence over everything else, all the other key bindings. And then there are some interesting bits in the config part here. So there's general provides a general create definer function macro. I don't know whether it's a function or a macro. I'm not that good with eLisp. But so what this guy does is it creates, so that's the name of the definer. So in the documentation he calls it tyrant def, which I thought was pretty clever. So tyrant def, and then it's active. This definer is active in all these evil modes. So are you familiar with evil modes? Is everyone here familiar with modes?
Please explain.
So Vim is modular, right? So evil achieves that, evil emulates that, and normal is like movement keys happen. Normal mode is for movement and like browsing your code. Motion is also for the same thing. And then visual is when you select the code and then you want to do something to that selected code. So that's visual mode. And insert mode is when you insert text. And Emacs mode is when you want to go into Emacs and you want Emacs key bindings to be active. So that's I'll show this with a demo maybe. In the demo I'll show this, but these are just modes that evil mode provides. And then it has a prefix. I use space because I want to do a spacemacs-like setup. And then there's a non-normal prefix. So in the so that's control space, and non-normal prefix would be active in insert mode or Emacs mode and things like that. And then how do you use this guy? How do you use tyrant def? So that's shown here. So if you wanted to load a package, say suggest, you would use package and then general and then tyrant def as. So as is now it now defines, or it's now bound to suggest. So if I was to press space as, that would load suggest. So that's how it works. So general.el is better than like bind key. It's better than bind key because bind key does not have provisions for evil mode. It might have something, but I'm pretty sure it's convoluted. I haven't tried it, so I don't know how it works. Then there is evil define key, so that comes with evil mode. But evil define key is also pretty verbose. So here I can like inside one define function I can define many key bindings. With evil define you have to call evil define for every key binding, and that gets pretty verbose really soon. Spacemacs uses evil define key. And then good thing about this is you can have as many prefix or as many definers as you want. So like if you want some key bindings to be triggered through the space key, and then if you want some other key bindings to be triggered by the comma key or whichever other key you want to you can do that. You can do that as well. So yeah, that's how you would use general and use package. So I guess I'll just jump into Emacs and show my config, and then.
Great.
That should make it clearer.
You may have to get out of full screen before you can drag it over.
Right. Okay.
Kindly and big.
Right. It's big enough. Maybe I should change the theme. It's clear. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the talk for today. It's made in org mode, and then I have a few things I wanted to show for the demo. Yeah, maybe I'll just show my config file first. It's not. Yeah, so there's some boilerplate for use package. It's available on the internet, and then yeah. So yeah, which key is a nice package that I did not talk about. But like if I press space, still how do I make that big?
The only way to make that big that I've noticed is that you have to change your font for Emacs so that it is bigger by default. So if you like 14-inch font, bump it up to 20. That's what I usually do.
Where did I define my font? I forget, somewhere here, but that's commented out. Where do I define my font?
Yeah, it would be something like that.
Yeah, I think here.
But if you don't
Right.
set anything, then you would have to. Yeah, so that would be that.
20.
If that's the thing. I don't know if it is. But you probably have just a valve that line.
Does it work? Does it like apply everywhere? Okay, maybe next time.
Automatically. Yeah, that's like something bigger.
Right. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Or should I?
Instead of like 20.
Hmm?
Can you like try 30?
30? Okay.
It's like just a cusp. Mr.
So I just eval this line, right?
Yeah. I mean, in standard Emacs,
CXCE.
Control-X, Control-E. Yeah, apparently that doesn't actually work.
And it should be outside the last brackets.
Yeah. So that's makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still not. Maybe
If
it's
you go one back, I think if you say,
over there.
yeah. No, you may have to restart.
Oh. I'll just restart.
Your Emacs starts up in 1.4 seconds, so.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger. I can see it on my screen.
Oh, it's huge. Great. I like it. It's so big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see everything.
Yeah, that's clear.
Good old Emacs.
But yeah, this is just an expanded version of what I showed in my in the presentation. So I use general, and then which key is necessary to show stuff like this. So like if you have a key map, it just populates everything. Like it tells me, so SPC is bound to council MX. There's like B for SPC B for buffer. So it all comes from here. So if I define it in the general, in the use package block for general, there. So that's an interesting function that general provides. So tyrant def was the definer that was bound to space, and if I just do a spcc, that emulates control C, so that's what it does. And if I do spch, it should emulate the help functions. So it's pretty nice. And then spclp is list packages, and then t is it's about themes, and then these are all functions that vanilla Emacs provides. So I don't need any other packages for these functions to be available. So then it makes sense to have these definitions in the general in generals block. But then if you have a package, let's say if you have like suggest, so then you would define the key binding that you want in suggest to use package block. So if I was to comment just this use package block, all the key bindings would go away as well. So if on the other hand, if you had key bindings in the general block, and then if you had a use package for suggest somewhere here, if you comment this out, you would have to go hunt for where the key bindings are defined and then comment it out there as well. So it becomes really hard to maintain init file that way. So this is this is how general helps us make it modular. And then I have solarized here. That's my theme. Evil mode. So that.
Is there anything in particular that you lose by doing this method and not actually using Spacemacs? Like what sort of differences do you find between the two?
Right, yes. Spacemacs has a number of other functions that they have defined themselves. What do they have? They have written some, like there was this fc write file. So they have a modified version of this function where they rename file and buffer. So like you would have to write those functions yourselves and then bind them. And you would have to bind them to some key. So yeah, Spacemacs has some additional functions but in my experience, I did not find myself using them as much. So I was mostly using all the functions that came with the packages or with vanilla Emacs. So Spacemacs' special functions weren't that useful to me. So then I thought it would be better to just write a configuration myself, which did not use Spacemacs. But yeah, and then it's all really modular. So if you find like you did not use any of these packages, you could just comment it out, and the key binding goes away as well. So with other binding functions, if you did not use general, it does not remain modular. You would have to hunt for key bindings somewhere else in your init file and then comment it out there as well. It becomes quite hard to maintain. But yeah, so all there is to it. And then what did I want to talk about this? Yeah, so I mostly use these three things in Emacs. So I use org mode, I use Python, and I use LaTeX. So I'll show you a Python. So like if you have a Python file, so I have. Does anyone here write Python or Python? Just one? Just 2, 3? Okay, 3 people. Are you?
Yeah. Aaron's tried it before.
Do you know of this package? It's really cool. Swing stock. So I have it bound to. So yeah, that is SPCM. That is another thing that comes from Spacemacs. So that's MM. It basically means major mode. So that basically corresponds to the layer that is active. So here Python layer is active. So SPCM contains all the key bindings that Python mode defines. So I just have very few. Spacemacs would have like 20 or 30 functions bound to a major mode, and I think most people do not use all of those functions. But yeah, the one that I used was S, so I was just Sphinx doc. I could, and I already have something here. But if I just do SPC MS on here, it populates that, and then I just fix it. And then I change whatever. And it's really nice. And then there's auto completion. So if I think I have PLT loaded somewhere. Do I have? I don't have matplotlib loaded here. But if I just yeah, figures out everything and it shows me all the completions. So that comes from company mode, but it's really useful. So yeah, my intention was to show that this does most of the useful things that Spacemacs does, and without all the complications or all the gymnastics of the post init, pre init, stuff like that. But
are your dot files available to look at?
Yeah, I'll put them on GitHub. I have them in a private repository, but I can make it public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to
Yeah.
copy.
But I've seen a couple of talks on reproducible research here. Are you guys familiar with?
Yeah, we had, Evan did a talk on reproducible research from another person that
Yeah,
talked about how
I'll go through it. But yeah, it's really, it's like if you have so that OB, there's a package OB IPython, so it stands for org babel IPython, and it provides this src IPython block, and it now has capability to provide Julia and R as well. I think they are buggy. I'm not up to date on how good they are, but IPython works really well, and you can do a lot of things here. So it's just plotting a sine function, and then you can save it somewhere, and then you can load that file, and you can provide a caption and everything, and write equations. And if you export it, produces a PDF. Oh, it's on my screen.
It's gonna make things difficult,
Yeah. But yeah, it like puts references there. It does. You can reference figures. It's really. So for Vim users, this is like revolutionary for Vim users. Vim does not have anything like this. Org mode stuff that org mode can do is.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, a few talks about it, but always welcome more talks about it or
A lot better. There's a lot better.
And then there's org beamers. Org beamer is really, if I
Did you write this talk in org beamer?
I can just
Or in org?
I can just export it to org beamer.
Yeah.
I think I have to.
You mean export it to beamer?
Yeah.
What does beamer do? Beamer is basically LaTeX for presentation formatted PDFs.
Wasn't produced. some problem. End frame. Why did that happen?
What's the line number feature that you've got called?
It's called display line numbers mode. So it's now native since Emacs 26.1.
Yeah.
Earlier you had to use linum or nlinum, something like that, but it's now native. It's really good.
That's neat.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know why it's not exporting.
It could be something that's not afterthought.
Yeah, it's no big deal. It's no big deal.
Yeah. And then what else? Beamer, but org and Beamer have some really nice features. So if you had like a title, so that basically becomes a frame when you have a bullet like that, and then you can have a secondary bullet, and then you can do a Control C, Control B, and then you can use this guy bm call. It will prompt you for a column width, and then you could provide 0.5, and then you could have something here. Like this is the first column. And then you can have a second column like that, and then it actually makes presentations with 2 columns. That's really, it like exports it to LaTeX and then makes presentations with 2 columns. It's really sweet. What else do I have? Posters. Yeah, you can make posters in org mode. So I have there's a lot of boilerplate at the top here, like use package and stuff like that for LaTeX, but all of that is worth it. The savings that it does later on, when you have to include figures and stuff like that, it's really useful. So if I export this, oh, it's on my screen again. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that's like that's a complete
awesome.
That's a complete poster made in org mode. So it converts it to LaTeX first, and then it converts it to a PDF. So it's
That is.
it's
That's pretty great.
it's just org mode. Org mode can do everything. And then
Were you able to generate that just by playing around with it yourself, or is there a reference that you used?
I just played around with it myself. There's this.
You did that from this LaTeX?
Yeah.
But this is org mode?
Yeah, there's a little bit of LaTeX there, but it's mostly org mode, and then there are LaTeX commands that start with that. So # beamer, and then there's this TCB item. So I think it's called T color box package, which provides, yeah. So the T color box package, it's a LaTeX package, and it provides a TCB item. Oh yeah, a TCB itemize. So that's the environment that it provides, and you can use it to. It basically creates those boxes. So the box with the blue heading, so that's created by T color box package. It's really nice. Right. Yeah, and then.
Actually, before you go further, could you comment a bit about the research aspect, like how far do you go with that? Does that cover paper generation? Does it cover Python environment? Because it's potentially great, but I think I'm just so interested in how useful it is to you in your research.
Yeah. So. For research, so in my case, my data is really large. So my data sets are really large, and I have them on a server somewhere else. And I prefer to analyze that data on the server itself, and then bring all the figures to my local machine, and then make manuscripts and stuff out of it. But Ogmore helps me with that. So like the thing that I showed here. So yeah, if I just do an IPython here, and then there's this session keyword, and what this does is it connects to a Jupyter kernel. So if you have a Jupyter kernel running on your remote machine, you could just, it saves a kernel.json file on your remote machine. You can just copy that file on your local machine, and you can ask your local Jupyter to make a connection through that file. It does that port forwarding and stuff like that, and it produces a local kernel.json file. And you can provide that file here, and org mode connects to your remote IPython session or Jupyter session, and then you can run your code remotely, and then it'll produce all these figures, and then it'll save the figures in your local directory. And then once you have all those figures, you can export it to a PDF, or you can export it to a LaTeX. So in my case, I just export it to LaTeX, and then I make changes in LaTeX, because I have to collaborate with my advisor and other people, and they don't all use org mode, but they're comfortable with LaTeX. So then all my final edits are made in LaTeX. But generating all the figures and all that stuff, I still do it in org mode. It's really useful. Was that your question?
Yeah, I was just trying to get a feel for like what kind of tooling or what kind of pieces of work like you
Yeah.
were enabled by this.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, like this was really revolutionary for me. Org mode was really revolutionary, because I get to use, I'm used to Vim stuff, Vim key bindings, so all my Vim key bindings are available here, and then I can run codes remotely without doing much. Once everything is set up, I can run my codes remotely, and then I can just form manuscripts. My manuscripts can be generated through org mode, so it saves a lot of time. Yeah.
Launch jobs via org mode, like remotely on clusters and supercomputers? Like through work management or something? Do you go that far every step?
No, I haven't run jobs on a cluster, but yeah, I haven't run jobs on a cluster. I haven't done that through org mode, but I think it should be possible. Like if you set up a Jupyter kernel to run on a cluster, and then you can connect through org mode with it. You'll have to maybe forward it or something. You'll have to run through those hoops, but it should be possible. What else? And in LaTeX has anyone? Everyone must be. So people who do LaTeX must be familiar with Octex, right? Octex. Has anyone used CD LaTeX mode before? CD LaTeX is really nice. Show you. Do I have a text file open? That will work. So if you, in Octec, you have to invoke it through Control-C, and then I find it really tedious. In CD LaTeX, I could just, you could just press this guy, tilde, or the one below tilde, what is it called? Backtick. A backtick, and then that brings up that. So backtick A gives me alpha, or backtick B gives me beta. Silly shit. So alpha appears there, and it's enclosed in dollars. So that's really nice. And then if I need an equation block, I could just do EQU, and then company does not have to. You have to do it fast. You just do that. It gives me equation. Yeah, you have to do it before company takes over. But yeah, it's really good. CD LaTeX. So that comes from CD LaTeX, and then company RefTex is really good. So if I had to cite something, where are you? I think the bibliography file isn't defined in this one. But if you have that bibliography file defined, it like gives you a drop down of all the citation keys, and then you can cite stuff right there. So you don't have to invoke RefTex or anything like that. It just comes through company. So yeah, that was my setup. Yeah, that's all I have. Does anyone have questions? Any more questions?